made. So we have a rosé, which is the only non-red, which is made 100% from Pinotage in the Cadet range. Then we have the Cape blend, which was the original Cadet. It came out as Cadet Dry Red or Druroy, and it was effectively everything not good enough to be part of the top estate wines. And the first vintage we made of the Cape blend was 1985. Then we released the Cadet Pinotage in 2013. And now, last year, we released a Cadet Cabernet Sauvignon for the first time, which is currently exclusive to Woolworths and to our cellar door. And then in the estate wines, we have the Estate Pinotage and Cabernet, which were the first two wines we made. Both started in 73. The Paul Sour, as I mentioned, in 81. And then the Black Label Pinotage, which is a single bed Pinotage, which we released for the first time in 2006.
Wow, that's awesome. What's very interesting is how congruent the wines have been over the years, and which brings me. You touched on it a little bit, but I would like you to say a little bit more about, why do you think this has been so congruent? It has to be in the winemaking philosophy somehow. So how would you actually summarize your winemaking philosophy at Canon Corp?
You know what Aubrey always says, and if you chat to Aubrey and Johan, is when Aubrey started here, he was told that if you come to Canon Corp, you make Canon Corp wine. You need to make the wines in the style and that this property brings about. So he followed on from where Bears left off. The vineyards we farm, obviously we look for improvements, but we make wines to age. We make wines in open fermenters. We use the same coopers for our barrels that we've been using since the 70s. I'm not saying we don't try and improve. Of course, Aubrey is consistently looking at how to make things better, how to improve quality. But stylistically, it's the same. We're not trying to reinvent who we are. We know who we are. We're very secure in who we are. And we try to improve and tweak, but not to reinvent ourselves. And that's largely part of it. It's that strong philosophy of who and what the property is. Oh,
amazing. So, I mean, you mentioned that your main focus is on the wine, and I mean that's what Canon Corp is famous for. But you do have guests coming to the farm. So, what can people experience when they come to Canon Corp?
So, if you visit us, which at the moment we allow visitors to the cellar door, but unfortunately there's no tastings offered at the moment. Usually, you come to the cellar door, you can taste all of the wines for a normal fee. So we don't exclude Paul Sour or Black Label from tasting. They are available for tasting. There's an extra price to pay or extra fee to pay for the Black Label, but you can really taste some absolutely world-class wines. And then besides for wine tasting, we have an art gallery, and our art gallery is focused around local artists. Most of them come from the Western Cape, and we've done some really fantastic exhibitions in the gallery. And then if you're wanting, from time to time, we host some groups, or we have people that ask us for events. We have a small venue outside that we use for sloop rides. And even those sloop rides, they're done in the same way as we run everything else in the business. They're done personally. They're done by the family. So if you book a sloop ride at Canon Corp, it'll be Paul and Ilse or Johan and Marie that'll be cooking the food, preparing it for you. Ilse will make the soup patat and bake a bread in her kitchen, or Marie will. And you get to experience your evening with them and with wine, which I think is hugely unique. It's not a restaurant, there's no staff, it's just you and them, and a very sort of personalized experience on the farm.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So, Deirdre, in terms of your distribution of your wines, I mean, Canon Corp wines are available everywhere in South Africa and also overseas. Is your market breakdown in terms of South African and overseas? Where's your focus?
We always try to look at the world as a whole. So, of course, South Africa remains our most important market, and we always will put favor towards South Africa. Even in vintages where supply is small, or the vintage was small, South Africa will get always get a good portion of it. And we're currently selling about 60% of our production is in South Africa and 40% is export. And that export we export to just just around 60 markets. So we are quite widely available, but we have a huge support base, a huge fan base at home in South Africa, which is amazing. And I think that's where you want to be. If people locally and your neighbors, your neighbors love the wine, and Stellenbosch people come and buy wine from us all the time. We have a good support in our town. I think that's important. So when visitors from overseas come here, come to South Africa, or come to Stellenbosch, and they meet friends or family, or come to visit with people take them to bring them to Kanonkop. They take them to restaurants and share Kanonkop wines. So once again, that sort of personal connection that people have with the brand, they share on to others. So although we make a fair amount of wine, especially on the cadet side, the estate wines remain quite limited in production. And we try and be as fair as possible when it comes to sharing out those wines. So most of the wines are on allocation. So for companies that we've worked with for a long time, some of our import partners we've been working with for 20, 25 years. And they have a consistent supply, and it's important. You build a partnership with your importers. We have good relationships with them, and we're a part of their business and they're a part of ours. We won't be successful without them, and vice versa. And I think that's we have that understanding and that support. It's incredible.
Oh, that's interesting. So in terms of a place like Kanonkop staying relevant in a changing market, there's all kinds of new trends evolving. People are starting to eat less meat, and there's a whole bunch of vegans out there in the world. Do Kanonkop follow any trends, or are you looking at millennials as a new market, or do you just carry on with increasing the quality of your wines and that is reflected in your marketing?
On the first point, quality wines made well and of high quality appeal to a large audience of people. So that is first and foremost Arbery's focus. You always focus on putting the best possible wine you can in the bottle. And of course, we always try and put it in the bottle at the best possible price. We strive to always over-deliver on quality for the price point. Secondly, consistency. So if your father bought a bottle of Cadet in 1992 and you buy a bottle of Cadet today, it will still remind you of the same quality red wine that your father remembers, or that he shared with you around a Sunday lunch table. And that consistency is important in times like we have now, where people are when money is short, people are less experimental. They buy what they know. Big brands tend to do better. International brands tend to do better. If you think of, I read a great article written by one of the top guys from Conchiatoro, and that was amazing to see that if your brand is known and trusted, you pull through difficult times so much easier and so much better than new brands or brands that are not known, because people have less money to spend, and they'll rather spend 100 Rand on a bankable bottle of wine that they know than spend 100 Rand on something they're not sure of and they're not sure they're going to enjoy. So that's I think has been one of the most important factors for Kanonkop during the lockdown and during COVID. Kanonkop has people that have been drinking our wine and buying wine from directly for 20 or 30 years, and they've continued, which is amazing. So in terms of changing and what we've done, Kanonkop our wines are all vegan friendly, and I think that's important, and we do communicate that. So no matter whether you vegetarian or vegan, you can enjoy our wines quite confidently. Making sure we put the best possible products in the bottle and put that product on the shelf at the best possible price. Making sure our wines are available and easy to access. Funnily enough, we didn't know at the time, but we recently redid our website and simplified our wine shop, our online wine shop, and that went live just a couple of weeks before lockdown, which helped us immensely. So we work with a lot of a great number of retailers around the world. So you can find our wines in Carrefour in Belgium and in Coop in Switzerland. So it's made it easy for people to have access to the wines, and that, as I said, was very, very beneficial. And if you look at how people are shopping and how people are buying, and the change in consumer behavior, less and less people will go out to restaurants for the next while. More people are obviously buying at retail. They tend to want to buy at smaller stores closer to home, and of course, online has seen massive growth. And we were lucky enough to be available in all of those channels. We work with all the major retail groups in South Africa. We work with them online, so it's been really easy and simple for people to be able to access a bottle of Kanonko. And of course, if you make it easy for a customer to get their hands on your product, then they will buy it.
This is true. I think you're mentioning the coronavirus, and we all had to rethink our business models, and you've touched on it a little bit. But are there any other changes or new things that you have in mind that you might have considered over this period?
Kanonko is always operated. We're a fairly small team, so it's easier to make changes when you need to. There's no big corporate structure. There's no, not a lot of, we're a very flat structure. We have sort of two or three levels. So it's easy for us to sit around or to be on a Microsoft Teams call or a Zoom call between us and make decisions and make changes of what we need to adjust to what people are asking for. We have seen that more and more people want to, as I say, buy locally, support the farmer, which has been amazing. We're seeing many more people buy directly from the winery, which has been great. So the changes we've had to make is, for myself even, that I usually work with the trade. I have very little to do with private customers. A colleague of mine, Heidi Kritzinger, she manages a private client business. So our private clients and our cellar door have been inundated with orders and requests. And so we've had to, reshuffle our work days a little bit and reshuffle the man hours. So for those of us that are involved in the trade side of the business, put in a couple of extra hours to help us cellar door. And because we're a small team and we can react and make changes quite quickly, it was easy to do. There was no big, meetings or things that needed to take place. It's guys, the cellar door team needs help, needs support, and we all jump in and get it done. And I think that's also one of the, it's been hugely beneficial to understand one another's needs. But other than that, our business was already designed in the case that we were not terribly. We had good on-trade exposure and a lot of restaurants that bought our wine, but we were most of the volume of our sales were in the retail sector anyway. And that's the sector, retail and online, that's growing. Obviously, online has done incredibly well, but we were with in that channel, selling to those customers already. So it's a case of tweaks and making sure that you're available if somebody has a need, responding, listening to what your customers are asking you to do or asking you for, and trying to help where you can, and just stay in touch and stay relevant.
Oh, really, really good. I think you mentioned a few things. One of the things was the importance of the local market, and somebody mentioned once to me that South Africa has one big secret, and that most South Africans know as many people outside of the country as inside the country. And I mean, I think this is especially true of your area there of Stellenbosch and surroundings. Do you find that word of mouth, I suppose, is still your biggest way to actually get your awareness and your message out about Kanonko? And a second part of that question is, do you actually embrace new things like social media and stuff, which is almost like a technology word of mouth? Or is that part of your strategy?
Very much so, and you've hit the nail on the head completely. So as I was saying, we have people that have been buying our wines for years, and they're proud to buy Kanonko and they're proud to serve Kanonko. And they introduce so many people to the brand, whether they have friends or family from overseas coming to visit, they happily share Kanonko with them, or whether they travel. And social media has been a very big part of our communication. We have a good database of people that we chat to, regularly. And when it comes to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, we work with all of those, and we try and build as much direct conversations as we can. And a number of the partners we work with, the importers we work with, have a similar philosophy. So yeah, I mean, I've spoken to, I've met upper South Africans, whether it be in London or New York, who are saying that they love Kanonko and they've come to the tastings that we've done, and when they have lunch or dinner with friends and family, or invite them around for a braai or a barbecue, they're happy to share Kanonko because they're proud of it. They're proud of this wine from South Africa, and they want to show their brag, or they brag a little bit about what products come from South Africa. And I think that's amazing, because if you've been introduced to something around a table with your friends or around a bar with some mates, you're more likely to take notice of it and to appreciate it. That works so much more effectively, and you're likely to internalize it and to take it on board than if you standing in a store and a promoter tries to come and tell you and sell you something. It's not nearly as effective. So if it wasn't for people that loved the brand and supported us, we wouldn't be here today. So I think that's been one of the biggest successes for us is that personal connection with people who love and share our wines.
Deirdre, you've had an exciting wine journey. So what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey so far?
Number one, I love wine. So I'm first and foremost a wine person. I always joke that if the wine industry had to end today, what would I do? I have no idea. Maybe I'll go sell beer. But I love wine. I love to drink wine. And I think if you love what you do and you love your product, what makes the wine industry so much better is even in your downtimes, even in times when things are tough, at least you've got a product that you can enjoy. I mean, how do you wake up and be excited in the morning if you sell toothpaste, toilet paper? It gets you out of bed. And it's very seldom that you work with people that are not nice or that you don't like. And it's very seldom that you travel to places that are not nice and you don't like. So you're usually fortunate in the industry. It is a lot of work though. And there is a bit of a myth that the wine industry is so glamorous and it's easy. It's really not. There's a lot of a hell of a lot of competition. It's probably one of the most competitive sectors in the world. And if you work for a winery in South Africa, I mean, South Africa is only 4% of the world's production. It's small, and not that many people know about you. And it's a lot of sharing of stories and sharing of products and engaging with people that you need to do to win them over. But it's hugely pleasurable, very enjoyable, and I've loved it. I hope I get to stay in the wine industry for the rest of my career. It's my plan, for as long as they'll have me.
Well, it's great that you love what you do. So, can you give us your very own wine quote, or a wine quote that that you like?
I suppose there's two things that I often say. A really great bottle of wine, I describe it as, this is a wine I can sit in the corner and drink. The wine is so superb that you don't need conversation with it, because conversation will just interrupt your thought process and processing and enjoying what you have in the glass. So sometimes you get that really, really special bottle and you think, I just want this for me, I don't want to share it. But I think from the business perspective, and I really have always enjoyed I enjoy the commercial side of the business. I enjoy the business as much as I do wine.
Deirdre, that's been so interesting. How do, if people want to get hold of Canon Corp, how do they get hold of you guys?
In terms of reaching out to chat to us or reaching out for some wine?
Both. Hopefully to buy wine and chat.
Well, of course, Monday to Thursday from 9 until 5, they're welcome to pop into the cellar door. We open, and you can find us then. We're happy to have a chat on some wine, and then also you're able to buy them here. And then our website, canoncorp.co.za, you can read a lot of information about the history, about the winemakers. On the website, we also have vintage reports for each vintage, showing rainfall and temperature trends. There's some a short video you can watch on watching the winemaking and process. And you can order wine on our online shop. And then, of course, we're available, as I said, in all the major retailers in South Africa. And you can find us, quite often in all of your good wine stores.
Okay, that's awesome. Deirdre, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and very interesting. Thank you very much. I know you're busy for spending the time doing this, and I think everybody will appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Will, and for everybody else, thanks for listening, and thank you for continuing to support Canon Corp as your wine of choice.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Morning, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, I'm talking to Vincent and Fiona Beere from Saxonburg. Hi, Vincent. Hi, Fiona. Welcome to About the Winelands.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Good morning, Will. Yeah, pleasure to be on, and good morning to all the listeners.
Yes, I mean, I think the listeners are going to really enjoy the show, and you guys have such an interesting story. So tell me, can you guys give us a bit of background of how you became involved in the wine industry?
Absolutely. So I'll start off. I think it was never really for me in the beginning in the plan to go into the wine industry. And my father very much had the philosophy, you have to do what you enjoy and what you love. So he never pushed any of us into going into the wine industry. And I had been working on another project in South Africa, and I was living on Saxonburg and loved it so much being back on the farm because I had been studying abroad, that I asked if I could join the Saxonburg team. And I thought in the beginning I'd just do a 6-month stint. And I joined as I got the position of the Cape Town sales representative position. And 6 months went by in a flash. And I noticed that that's a drop on a hot stone, and that you can't really achieve that much in 6 months. And I just have a huge passion and love for Saxonburg. So I decided to, of course, stay on, and I stayed on in that position, and then grew from that position and took over the Johannesburg market and did the sales there. And then I did the national sales and just grew from that position. And you know, before I knew it, 10 years went by in a flash, and I'm still with Saxonburg and now running the estate with my brother. So that's how I got into the wine industry and starting working for Saxonburg, which I'd been in a whole different industry beforehand.
Oh, interesting. And you, Vincent?
So yeah, well, on my side, it was to some extent obviously similar. I mean, we had the great fortune of growing up on this farm, so obviously there was always a real connection and to the place, and I think when you're that close to any industry, you end up loving or loathing it. And you know, both Fiona and myself, it was the case of falling deeply in love with it. And so after university, also I had actually chosen a different path. I ended up in finance, and then within a few years realized that there was a real sort of strong pull to go back to South Africa. So at that time I was based in London, and get involved as well. And you know, for us it was very much about learning about all the facets of the business, to really get a deep understanding, because it is a fairly competitive certainly industry, and it's also one that's been undergoing tremendous change over the last 10-20 years, if you will, with the inclusion of technology and globalization as well. And that all of a sudden the supply chains had changed a lot. And so my early sort of contribution was also in the sales side, but I was going much more on the international markets. In those days, 15 years ago, we started pushing quite heavily towards Asia. And so I was spending a lot of time in Southeast Asia and also East Asia, and building up those markets with the team we had there. And then about 6 years ago, I found my way back to Cape Town, and I moved onto the farm and started getting involved on the managerial side. And to fast forward to today, obviously Fiona and I run the farm together.
Amazing. So your family, can you tell us a little bit of how your family got involved in Saxonburg, and maybe also a little bit of history of the farm itself is always, you know, that's always interesting to our listeners.
So the farm itself dates back to 1963. So it is actually one of the oldest estates in South Africa. And the name also Saxonburg exists already since 1707, because the first owner was von Sachs, and then it went on to the De Berg brothers, and they kind of combined their names, and that's why it's called Saxenberg. And also the first wines were planted there in 1707 already. And it was always used for wine or mining. Actually, Saxenberg has a lot of, had a lot of silver and granite, of course, and zinc. And so it always went between the two over its history and its course. Then my family purchased the estate in 1989. My father always had our family has been in the wine for 5 generations already. And my father traveled extensively through South Africa with his brother, who actually was studying at UCT back in the days. And he had a huge passion and love for South Africa and the land. And he just saw an opportunity because, you know, South Africa was closed off, and he's always wanted to have a wine estate, and he saw an opportunity in South Africa at the time for him like no other country, where the terroir was exceptional, but it wasn't opened up internationally yet, and he knew he could be part of a change. And so he traveled there in 1988, and he looked at a few wine estates, and he didn't actually find any. And then on his way to the airport, he stopped on Saxenberg, and he said when he entered it, it was like entering home, and he immediately knew that was the farm. And once the terroir analysis was done, it was a perfect match. And so my parents purchased the wine estate in 1989, and then we're actually one of 5 children. So it's Vincent, and then I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters. And my parents moved us over all in 1991 and committed 100% to Saxenberg. And I think the 90s was very much focused onto replanting, because actually when Saxenberg was taken over, it was in a very derelict estate, and it was, we would say, a lump of coal, which we then tried to turn into a lump of gold. And it was actually planted mostly with Chenin, Riesling, and Cinsault at the time. And I would say 90% of that was pulled out and replanted, and the estate was. The estate itself is 200 hectares, and nearly 100 hectares were planted. And they didn't follow trends at the time at all, but they went with what their terroir has to offer. And they set their own trends in the time, especially in the 90s. I would say they were trendsetters, that they then planted Shiraz, which was very uncommon in the early 90s. But, you know, Saxenberg is the ideal location for Shiraz. The whole top of Saxenberg is a decomposed granite field. And so that actually became our main varietal. And then our first winemaker back in the day, in the 90s, was Van Rensburg. And then they got Nico van der Merwe on board. And then he was out throughout the whole 90s and the beginning of the 2000s. And, you know, then in 93, Saxenberg won, I think, 5 double golds in the Veritas and a General Smuck Award. So it catapulted Saxenberg, I would say, on the map. And so that was in the 90s. It was all about, you know, making a reputation and replanting and building the brand Saxenberg. And in the 2000s, we very much concentrated when the market was open on growing internationally. So I would say that's a very short history of Saxenberg.
Oh, that's amazing. I want to ask you, you are a brother and sister team, and I said, the question I wanted to ask is, how do you share management responsibility? But I think that's my nice way of asking you guys, how don't you kill each other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's, look, there's certainly the wonderful thing about the family businesses is that, you know, the saying always goes is, you know, you get upset at a friend, it's very hard to get to forgive them. You can be upset with family. We've been having idle fights for 30 plus years, you know, and we're still here to tell the tale. So, you know, family just has the sort of bond that obviously is very advantageous, but comes with its sets of challenges. And I think we trust each other very much. I think we complement each other also in the sense that we share, we share all of the decision making, and certainly the essential one. And it's good to have each other as a sounding board in that sort of sense. But at the same time, in terms of roles, they're really sort of clear cut and defined roles that everyone operates within. And, you know, Fiona being the first to actually go back to the farm has cut herself a very strong role in the sales side of things and the marketing and the branding of the estate. and has really built that up for herself. Whereas myself, I spent most of my time on the farm, and I got sort of involved in all aspects from the land, so viticulture, into the winemaking as well. As much as I'm not at all a winemaker, we have an excellent winemaker on the farm, but to get more involved in that sort of process, and then the all-encompassing management part of it. In terms of vision and strategy, we take the decisions together and then execute, obviously, in those departments respectively.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, you touched a little
I
bit
do
on.
want to say we have the advantage that we actually get along really well. so it's actually nice to work together with somebody that you get along with so well and that you're actually friends with.
Also, I think the issue you mentioned about trust, I think that trust that you have within a family is, you know, that's something that you can't really find anywhere else. So that's great. You touched a little bit on the Shiraz, and you know, this is what Saxonburg is famous for. I think it's Graham Beck that said you guys make the best Shiraz in the country, or maybe I think you could have even said in the world. So tell us a little bit about the other wines you are making, and also your winemaking philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. Look, the wine industry is one in which you always take a very long-term view, and you need incredible patience for this, because you're dealing with nature, and so by default you're never too sure what hand you're going to be dealt for any specific harvest or during a growing season. But you can certainly work very well around you know, the sort of the aspects that you can control of that, and most of those take place in the vineyard. So, you know, I think our first philosophy in winemaking is that 80% of any good wine is made in the vineyard. And with that, we take a very sort of rigorous approach to the vineyard and the way that we respect that terroir. We're lucky now that in some ways we have 30 plus years of experience of knowing the land, understanding the specific sites, knowing how certain clones react in specific sites, and we've managed to play with that and adapt to it and enhance it. So that would definitely be the first step of how we look at the philosophy itself. And then obviously it's being close to the market. When I say long term, you know, we have a vision, or our parents rather had a vision in the late 80s, early 90s, that Syrah was particularly well suited for that. And so, you know, today it represents 60+% of our total production, and we are building on that every year as we learn, obviously, as well. And so it's never been about chasing trends. It's being really sort of firm in the belief that what we're doing is the right thing, that we can improve on that all the time. But that's the kind of discipline and long-term thinking that it takes, and that we enjoy doing, you know. And then some years, you know, the varietal will be a bit more unpopular in some countries, and other years it will be there. But, you know, we certainly would like to think that is something that we can do very well. In terms of the other varietals, we've got incredible diversity on the farm itself. So the farm is about 200 hectares, of which 70 are planted to vines. And we're adding to that every sort of 2 to 3 years. The varietal breakdown is very much in terms of what is suited there. So we have Saxonburg sits, for those that don't know it, Saxonburg sits on one of those old sort of hills outside of Stellenbosch, and it gives us a 360 degree sort of geographic aspect, if you will. Some of it is facing the Stellenbosch winelands, and some of it is facing Table Mountain and the cooler False Bay slopes. So according to that, we plant in obviously the soils we have as well. And there's again a great diversity of soils, from, you know, sort of heavy clay to decomposed granite to heavier sort of gravel soils and Table Mountain sandstone. But basically what we've done is we've allocated the varietals. On the red side, we've got Syrah, obviously Shiraz, which leads the pack. We've got Cabernet Sauvignon, which for us is very representative of Stellenbosch. We've got some Pinotage as well, which to us is kind of the celebration of, you know, a typical South African varietal. And then for our entry-level blend, we've also got some Malbec and some Cabernet Franc. And then we've got a very small portion of Pinot Noir on Champagne Clone, which we use for our Méthode Cap Classique. And on the white side, I mentioned earlier the exposure to False Bay. We've got higher elevation, so 200 plus meter above sea level. We plant Sauvignon Blanc, and that makes up the biggest portion of the white wine. And we've also got some Chardonnay, some Chenin Blanc, and also some Semillon, which we have in smaller quantities.
To add into that philosophy, I think what we were saying is that from our winemaking philosophy, but also for our daily philosophy with Saxenberg, is always to work with respect, and respect that comes to all aspects, you know, respect to our work, to the terroir, to the wine, to the people around us, to our team, and then passion that we need, you know, for the wine itself. Passion comes with everything for us, and then of course always relevance, and that's to stay relevant with our product, relevant in our message, etc. And for us, also the number one thing that we work is in our philosophy for wine is that terroir is everything, and we should that we need to work with our terroir and respect that. So I think those are the three words that are the most important for us in our philosophy.
Oh, that's awesome. So when you arrive at Saxenberg, it feels like you're going on safari. So can you share a bit more about the wildlife on the estate?
Yes, absolutely. So let me give you a little bit of a backstory to why that is there. So back in the day, that was actually also planted with vine, but that's 40 hectares when you go into the bottom of Saxenberg, and it's actually quite a sandy soil. So as you know, we're out for only quality wines, and we could not produce a quality wine on that kind of terroir. So we decided that we would do a safari park there, and also just because we have a huge love for animals. And I think also, you know, a lot of people come to the Cape dressed in their safari gear, and they're wondering where all the wild animals are. And turns out they're not running around here freely. So for us, it's also a wonderful opportunity to have some of that, those wild animals. And we have mainly, of course, zebra, which are reproducing happily on the farm, let's put it like that. And then we have springboks and wildebeest and a few others that are roaming around there. And we just said, you know, let's have something African, let's have something we all love and can nurture there, and use that terroir for the wildlife. So that's why we have that feeling when you come in and all those animals there.
Oh, that's very, very nice. So tell me, what else can visitors experience when they come to Saxenberg?
So we started commercializing the farm. Obviously, the concept of the typical, or many of the South African farms, I should rather say, is very much about having a tourist attractive sort of activities and on the farm, and which are almost their own little profit centers. So we have a tasting room on the farm that you can visit 7 days a week, and which we completely refurbished actually just over 2 years ago. And then on the farm also we have a number of guest cottages, which we also renovated at the same time around the end of 2017, which are two doubles with all ensuite sort of bathrooms, and then there's a bigger cottage which has 3 ensuite bedroom bathroom also available. They're completely self-catering, so they all come equipped with kitchens, and the smaller ones with more of a kitchenette. And then you have access obviously to the outdoors. You're within sort of a couple of 100 meters from the game park itself. You can organize sundowner drinks out on our in the lovely sort of on a platform within that little game park, and enjoy the wines there. You can there's access to a pool, and obviously there's also a braai facility. So that's another aspect of it. And then on the farm itself, we don't at this point, sometimes when we have bigger groups, we have an outdoor Lapa area where we'll organize, especially more for the sort of overseas visitors, we'll organize typical sort of snook braais or meat braais as well, and then take them through our wines in that sort of way. Obviously, these are things that have been badly affected now by the lockdown and obviously the continuing sort of regulations. But typically these are very active participants of the farm.
Oh, amazing. You mentioned the coronavirus and the lockdown, and it's basically forced all of us to rethink our business models. So Fiona mentioned that you guys have spent the time working. Do you have any changes or new ideas in mind?
So as I said, I think we took this lockdown as a real time to sit down and put our minds together and really use this time effectively. I think we've done the opposite of saying let's lock ourselves down as well. We've literally said, what can we do with this time? And I think the main thing we've been focusing on is building a relationship with our end customers. So we always had you have a strong relationship with your partners abroad, with the restaurants, with your liquor stores, and that we've been very much concentrating on. But we wanted to, know our end customer, become a friend to our end customer, and introduce them to our team, introduce them to the brand more, introduce them to what's happening behind the scenes, and really take them along on our journey. So we've been very heavily focusing on our social media. We've been putting informative videos out there. We started a YouTube channel. We've been doing weekly webinars. I don't know if you saw where we've invited incredible speakers to join us on the weekly webinars, and it's not only about Saxenberg at all. It's we've been talking about corks and where corks come from, what do they mean, or the same with barrels, or what do glasses make for a difference. So we've tried to give the customer, an educational experience and take them along on our journey, but also giving them an opportunity to create a dialogue with us. And I think we've never been as interactive with our customers, and it's extremely rewarding and so nice to hear from them. And we've been really working on, our slogan is Saxenberg Wines Creating Moments. And what we mean by that is we want, life is all about the moments that are happening, and we really want to be part of those moments. Are they small or big moments? Are they celebratory moments or lonely moments? Doesn't matter, but most of those moments are around a glass of wine or around a nice meal with a glass of wine, and we want to be part of that journey, and that's what we've been focusing on. And so we've also taken that time to actually make a new website. So look out for that, because it will be launching very soon, and we've created a whole new website where all of this, we've just been talking about, will be integrated, and it will just make a much nicer organic experience for our customer.
I mean, I suppose the only things I can add to that, obviously, is, earlier I alluded to the fact that in the wine industry, everything is about long-term planning. I think obviously with, as Fiona said, with a crisis comes opportunity. It's been devastating in so many ways, but it also brings with it certain silver linings that you can then either act on or not. And for us, that was very much building out our sort of direct to consumer offering, is creating content, not just creating content, but also giving, becoming more personal in the way that we interact, giving a sort of peek behind the scenes, presenting the team, and then also just opening up to customers and saying, ask us all the questions that you've been wanting to ask them that never maybe had the platform to ask, and we'll share them with you and any other listener that is willing to listen. And I think you just, in terms of your planning, what changes is that because there's so much uncertainty, we sort of at the moment we work with what we call our sort of 3 months vision strategies, and that's basically, how do we operate within these 3 months, and what sort of view do we take? But the focus is very much direct to consumer. It's technology is going to play a tremendous role. We are now looking at a concept that is also introducing a virtual tasting room. Not so much, obviously, on the one hand, because people will be for some time more reluctant to set foot into certain establishments, but also because we are speaking to a wider audience now, that may be far away, that cannot get in the car and just drive 20, 30, 40 minutes and be at the farm, and to also bring them in and make them part of the experience. So it certainly changed in that sort of way. Also, I think a spirit of collaboration has come from this. We are working currently, we're very proud of our sort of area, obviously Stellenbosch, but to be more precise, the Polka Dry Hills. We've been working during lockdown on an initiative as well, which I can't divulge just yet, but which will be coming out in the next months or two, with a few of the farms that are in the area. And we think that, you know, this is a time to be collaborative. This is a time to pool resources and kind of find a common denominator and spread the same message, trying to reach a wider audience and with our products and our wines. So that's definitely another thing that we've been working on. I think a way in which the business model has changed, but very much in a favorable way.
Well, that's, you know, it's great that you've guys been proactive, and it seems that you're going to continue on this road going forward. I think people underestimate the amount of engagement you can create. And you're right. I think you mentioned, Fiona, or it was actually you, Vincent, that said your customers have the first time that you really can communicate with them on a almost a bigger scale. So that's amazing that you guys have embraced this, and I think this is really the way of the future. What is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Well, I mean, one of the most wonderful things, and I think it's probably 99% of the reason why, you know, anyone that's involved in wine or is producing wine or selling wine is involved is because of the product itself. You know, the sort of journey from vine to bottle. The people you meet in the industry are exceptional, whether locally or abroad. Always with this sort of zest of life and adventure and very close to nature and outdoors, and that is the way that we're sort of shaped as well. So I think that's a tremendous appeal. But the biggest lesson is definitely to have patience, in my mind. Everything takes a long time. We plant new vines, we play with new plant material, new clones, new sites. You know, you plant them today and you won't see the fruit of that labor for many, many years to come. Even bar the commercial aspect of it, you know, these things take a lot of patience, and then very often it's the temptation of not sidetracking. It's the temptation of not, you know, taking up other projects or following trends. So I think patience and discipline are definitely a big sort of part of the learning process in this journey.
For us, it's also, you know, not, as we're saying, what already my parents started, is not following trends, believing in what we're doing, setting our own trends. And then also, you know, there's so much amazing wine out there, especially in South Africa. There's just amazing winemakers. And so just get inspired by those people and surround yourself with people that inspire you. You know, the thing is with the wine industry, it's a constant learning. And that's what we thoroughly enjoy about it. And that's, you know, you're constantly adding on. And I definitely believe that's something I've taken from that.
Oh, excellent. I'd love to hear from you guys and get your favorite wine quotes from each of you.
One should wake up with a smile in the morning and end the day with a glass of wine. And I like it because for me, ending the day with a glass of wine or two is like ending the day with a smile. So you started with a smile and you ended with one.
I love it.
I mean, there's so many great and so many cheesy quotes, I think, in wine, but one that really resonated with me is the one that says wine is bottled poetry. And the reason it was, especially of more recently, is I've been tasting endless amounts of wine during lockdown as well with our cellar master Dirk van Sale, as we were sort of putting together new blends and, you know, obviously tasting our way through the 2020 vintage and, you know, getting ready for the 2019. And it's very interesting. The more people you bring together, it's always great to surround yourself with experienced and good palates. And, you know, it's interesting that everyone always interprets a wine in a different way. And I guess, you know, a little bit like poetry. It reminded me of English literature. You know, you asked to interpret one of Shakespeare's poems, and it's like, okay, everyone has a kind of draws a different inspiration or meaning from it. And the same way in wine, I think that's the beauty of it, is you know, it's you interpret it in your own way and you associate through it a memory or a time, or you mark an event. And so I love that. I think it's so true for wine. And I think the more time you spend tasting wine, the more that becomes the truth.
Excellent. Guys, that was awesome. If our listeners want to get hold of you, how do they actually, you know, where do they find you?
So we've, as Fiona said, we've been very active on our sort of channels. Our Instagram, you know, you're obviously always happy, and please, you know, have a look at what we're doing there. So the handle is Saxonburg Wines. And then we're on Facebook as well, Saxonburg Wine Estate. You can find us on YouTube, Saxonburg Wine Estate. We've got our own dedicated channel there to which we upload all of the content, all the videos, webinars, interviews that we've been conducting over the last months now. And then otherwise, obviously, if you want to reach us in a more sort of direct way, you can just email us at info@saxonburg.co.za, and we'd be obviously delighted to hear from anyone.
Guys, it was really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for taking the time speaking to us, and I think our listeners will really love this. And yes, thank you very much for informative talk.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it was a great pleasure, and I hope we could share some good information with everyone.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, I'm talking to Marcus Swemberger. Marcus is the General Manager at the Devon Valley Hotel. Welcome, Marcus, and thanks for talking to us on About the Winelands.
Thank you. Well, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
It's our pleasure. How are you coping with the lockdown situation here in South Africa?
Well, it's not only in South Africa; it's a worldwide phenomenon. So yeah, I'm coping. I'm personally coping. Yes, I keep busy at home with homeschooling and some small activities that we do at home with the children. But otherwise, yeah, it's the industry itself is obviously rough. It's really rough. As you know, the hospitality and the travel sections. It's a huge challenge, but I'm coping. Yes, thanks, Will.
Excellent. So tell us, Marcus, how did you get involved in this industry, and tell us a bit about yourself and history and stuff.
Well, my history, maybe here in the accent, I'm from Europe. I'm from Austria, and I fell in love with South Africa back in '96. You know, and then I came to the Cape, and I just immediately fell in love with this place. You know, and it's just beautiful. The people are lovely. The food, the wine. It's been just an incredible journey for me. And I'm actually come from a chefing background. I've been an executive chef in this hotel for 14 years. I've been worked around the world. I worked in Cape Town. I worked in restaurants and hotels. So the wine industry is actually fairly new to me. Like, even though I've been working and pairing and playing with wine, but the wine industry as a whole is actually quite new to me.
Well, that's it. That's awesome. So, so you moved here 14 years ago. Where did you obviously you worked in Europe before that, right?
I worked in Europe. I worked in Austria. I did my training. I worked in Germany, in Switzerland, in Israel, in America, in the UK, in France. So I was a real sort of traveling youngster until I met the right Macy, as you say, and then the rest is history. And I'm now settled in Somerset West. We've got a house. We've got beautiful children, and we got a bond. We got lots of debt, so all the normal things.
Okay, awesome. That's fantastic. So, I mean, the Devon Valley Hotel is in one of it's such a beautiful place, the old Devon Valley. You know, tell us a bit of the history of the hotel.
Well, Devon Valley, yeah, it is an amazing place. I've been here for 15 years, 14 years as the executive chef, now 1 year as the general manager. So the hotel's history actually stretches back to 1947, and it's an interesting, it's a fascinating story. It was the family who owned this piece of land. They bought this whole cedar wood from Cape Town. It was a shipwrecking in Cape Town Harbor, and they bought all of this wood and they built this beautiful hotel back in 1947. And it had a couple of owners changes, and since 2003, the Louis family has it, and they refurbished the hotel. It's in a beautiful state now. You know, the gardens are lush and beautiful. It's been completely remodeled. We've got 50 rooms. We've got 6 conference facilities. We've got a beautiful vineyard terrace. So on a bright summer's day, it's just the views are really breathtaking. You feel like you're sitting in the middle of the vineyards. You overlook the Devon Valley. You overlook the Helderberg Mountains. It's a spectacular view. It really is. It's world class. The only view who makes this is the beautiful Devon Mountain, but everything else is just, it's breathtaking. Working here, and it's breathtaking sitting here on the Davison Church on sundowners. So as soon as the lockdown is over, I hope we're going to keep it up and running again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the view from there is just unbelievable. And like you say, you know, you've got the accommodation there. Actually, when people get married there, a lot of times the guests and everyone stay overnight, I would assume.
That's right. No, it's our wedding industry. It's big. It's huge. You know, so we've got we actually, before the lockdown, we started clearing up a little wooded area on the back of the property, and we're gonna incorporate this into our wedding venues. It's gonna be stunning. It's gonna be right in the woodlands, you know, like of Devon Valley. So I'm really excited. Our plans are just huge. What we want to do on this property, and just the wedding is one of them. So we're gonna be offering numerous different packages. And the one thing, what exciting thing, what we're doing at the hotel as well, we actually help you to finance the wedding. So in the future, if you have a wedding here and the lockdown is over and we're all up and running, come and chat to us, and we're offering that we can actually finance the wedding for you. So this is actually an exciting sort of thing we're planning to do. And the setting is going to be stunning there. We have the ceremony going to be on our manor lawns. You overlook the Helderberg Mountains. When this woodlands is carved out, and we finish with it in hopefully, I don't know when now, but it's going to be stunning. It's really going to be stunning.
Well, that's an awesome offering, financing weddings, and thinking now about, I mean, you're one of the few hotels in around that area where people can actually have quite a fairly large event. Besides weddings, I assume you're focusing on the conferencing market as well.
It's our bread and butter, Bill. Like we have 6 conference facilities, and again, we just upgraded the facilities. We've got it's our bread and butter. And in winter months, we don't experience a large drop like other hotels do, because our corporate business is very strong throughout the year. And we have six conference facilities. We've got our 80-seater is our biggest seater of our venue. And we've got numerous breakaway venues. And this is going to be, after lockdown, this is going to be our focus. The local business, and we're gonna pick up where we left off, but we're going to be all guns blazing. We are ready to go.
Well, in terms of conferencing, I want to ask you, because obviously this is something that you mentioned, the whole tourism winter. Cape Town has managed as a city to fight that off by, with the convention center and with all the conferencing stuff going on, and you seem to do the same. But when the lockdown lifts, I assume your offering is going to be targeted at first more to locals rather than overseas tourists or overseas conferencing, right?
Yes, now 100% will. Yeah, I listened, I think yesterday or the day before, to the minister speak, and we don't expect a lot of international travel before December. So it's a killer for the hotel industry. So our main focus, our only focus, will be the local market. It will be the corporate market. It will be the locals. It will be the support locally.
So do you have any plans to attract local corporates? Any new idea? You're not going to focus. Are you going to focus? Are you going to finance conferences as well?
No, not gonna. Yeah. No, look, we have a marketing lady, and it's going to be an aggressive marketing campaign. Not only social media. Social media is great, but you need to go out there. You need to sell the place actively. And we have one lady, a marketing lady, and as soon as she's allowed to go out, she will be doing exactly that. There's lots of small businesses, medium businesses in the Stellenbosch area, Somerset West area, and we will be targeting. So we will be offering special packages. There is things on the pipeline. We're busy working online. How we can streamline the operation, how we can offer, how we can attract corporate and a business to the hotel. Now we are busy with that, but it's difficult to plan ahead at the moment. It's just difficult to see what direction is everything going. Every day things changes, and so are we. We put things we put things on paper, and then it all changes. Then it all changes again. So at the moment it's definitely a wait and see approach. But when the time comes, we will be ready. That's for sure.
I think that's the one thing that the businesses hate most is uncertainty. But one thing that I found certain at your hotel is going to be something interesting. And the last time I was there was about a few weeks before the lockdown, and I saw that you still you have some cats there in your lounge. It seems to have been there. I'm certain they've been there forever. What's the story about the cats?
It's funny that you mentioned that. We have one local cat. It was with us now for 6 months. It's a youngster, and just this last 3 weeks since I'm in contact with the with the person who looks after the property, there's 2 more kittens have just arrived. So we actually got 3 cats at the moment. So 2 kittens and 1 older cat. So yes, yeah, that's cats and Devon Valley. It goes together.
It does go together, yes.
Yes.
So the other thing that is interesting that you offer that's a bit different is in your lounge or bar, I'm not sure what you call it, you've got a whiskey tasting. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, Cedarwood Lounge. Yeah, no. We've got 150 different single malt whiskies on offer. You know, this is mostly Scottish whiskey, but we do offer Irish whiskies, and we offer some exotic whiskies. You know, we got whiskies from India, Japan, Sweden, and Taiwan, and obviously the local whiskey, the Three Ships whiskey range we have, and some American bourbons we have as well. So our whiskey range is huge. It's one of the biggest in the Western Cape. It used to be the biggest, but I think there's other properties there that are quite big as well now. So it is definitely one of the biggest whiskey range, and it's super popular. It's really popular. And we're offering food and wine pairings. We have a new executive chef, and our whiskey range, it is more a focus on the New World whiskies. So the New World whiskey just have more flavor, and it's just a more fun whiskey, if this makes any sense. And so is our cannabis. You know, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be just a little bit different, and that's what we're aiming for. Maybe I can just introduce Andrew Jordan. He's only started with us beginning of March. He's in lockdown as well. He's roaring to go. You know, he got all those ideas, and he's the executive chef we appointed the beginning of March, and he's got wonderful experience. He was for 14 years in the UK and works for the Sheraton Group, for the Conrad Group, and so he is planning and menus are ready. So now he's pairing it with the whiskey. So it's all good. It's all good.
Well, that's awesome. At least this time can be used for a bit of planning, right? And I know dates are difficult, but at least, like you say, you can plan venues and you can plan new products and new offerings. So that's one good thing.
It's one good thing, yes. And I'm like that. You know, like I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm pushing, and then all the work is just about done. You know, there's only so many menus you can design. So now we're just hoping that the minister does us all a big favor, just lifts this lockdown soon.
Well, I hope so too. So the other thing that I've noticed is lately, I'm not sure how long you guys have been producing wine, but can you tell us a bit more about the wines you're producing and also the winemaking philosophy at the farm?
Well, I can tell you my winemaking philosophy. This is the best way you learn about wine is to drink it, you know. So, but we are having the hotel is mostly focused obviously on hospitality, but we have 3 different cultivars on the estate. We have the Bush Shannon, the Cab, and the Pinot Noir. But we don't make our own wines anymore. For the last couple of years, we went into partnership with the Middle Flay estate. We buy wine from them, and our neighbor Dion Schubert, he's looking after our vineyards and looks after them. So in the past we used to make our own wines with the Silverbell and the Ghost Tree range, but at the moment currently we don't, and we buy actually our wines from Middle Flay. We went into partnership with them a couple of years ago.
But you make the wines under your own brand, right?
We make the wines under our own brand. Yes, that's right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So where are your wines sold? Mostly in your restaurant, or are you selling in the local market?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Mostly in our restaurant, only at the hotel.
So as a chef, you know, how important would you say? I mean, you just told me your background is you've been a chef all those years. So the wine experience that the diner will have with his food, how important is that for the experience?
Well, we have we are in the wine industry. You know, even though we are a hotel and our focus is hospitality and it is corporate, and it's a wine. It's our makeup. It's part of who we are. You know, when you come to the hotel and you overlook the vineyards, you sit in the vineyards. So we're offering a huge variety of wines. I know the list is endless, but our focus will always be Devon Valley, will always be Stellenbosch, will always be local. So we have Devon Valley flights we're offering from the Louisville range to the Middle Flight to the Clonmalvern. We're offering all the Devon Valley, and this all the Devon Valley wines. And this is what we what we are pushing. I think we have an excellent relationship with all our neighbors. The offering is called the Devon Valley Tea Tour package. So when the guests come here, they can come to the valley and to come to all the different estates. They can eat and they can drink and they can experience the Devon Valley in a quite unique sort of way. And it's a fantastic offering. It's very reasonably priced as well. It's just to bring a local awareness to the Devon Valley. I think it's working really nicely.
I think that's important that you say, you're working with the locals there, like Clo Malvern and all those people are making, all of them have a different and fantastic offering. But the Devon Valley, like you say, as an area, is such a nice offering that it has as a group. So it's important that you collaborate together. But the other important thing is, especially for your conference as well, you're only about 4 or 5 kilometers out of Stellenbosch, which is also important.
That's right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like, so we are away from the city, but we are still very close to the city. So you get the feeling of the vineyards, you get the feeling of countryside. So it makes the people feel relaxed. But not only do with the corporates, and we work with the corporates. So we're offering for working cost challenges. We're offering brides. We're offering the full range of catering, and it makes a difference. When people come, because people come to work, but at the same time they come to relax. So it's like a package we're offering, but it comes naturally. So people don't have to pay anything extra. They just come here and they naturally relax because they're in the vineyards, and and it works. So we get lots of support from the local medium small businesses, and it works.
So, Marcus, I also noticed on your website that you have a few social responsibility initiatives. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Yes, yeah, no, we do. And the main social responsibility, what we're doing is the Louis family, is the Louis Group Business Academy. So we have about 280 students coming throughout the year through this academy. It's to learn about business, ethical business. The Louis Group is sponsoring that, and they're coming to Devon Valley. So it's a great initiative to learn about business, and to learn about the way the Louis family does business. But we do other charitable events throughout the year. But it's then more on the basis what comes to us, what's happening. If there's a crisis somewhere, then we're going to jump in and be helping. But obviously, as social initiatives, we still promote water savings, and with all our guests, we still promote social awareness, what's happening in South Africa, and it's basically our drive. So our main drive is the Louis Group Business Academy.
That's interesting. So, talking about the other social awareness thing we're talking about now is the coronavirus, right? And it's forced all of us to rethink our business models. So, do you have any changes or new ideas in mind in your business model?
Well, I'm a Christian, and I'm personally on my knees and I'm praying so much more than I used to. And I know the Louis family, they're strong believers. They feel the same. The whole business model is based on strong Christian ethos. So but we all know we have to do things differently going into the future. It's not going to be the same for quite a long time. Even though we have these beautiful refurbished conference facilities, we have this beautiful hotel in the middle of the vineyards. But in order to create business again, we have to think differently. We have to think out of the box. We're having online brainstorming session. We go to these webinars. We educate ourselves. But it is a learning journey for me, big time. I think for many of us sitting in this industry, hospitality industry, it's a learning curve. Try to keep our staff employed, and as maybe I can mention it as well. I really want to honor the Louis family when it comes to that. We haven't had a single retrenchment. We keep everybody on the payroll. So it's been amazing actually. The family is really looking after the staff really well. So it's a learning curve, and I'm learning every day. So Corona it's a headache, but it's not going to kill us.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and it's important, like you say, that you have the right philosophy and mindset to get through all of this. Talking about that, your whole journey through the hospitality industry, you know, not, I mean, through first as a chef and your life journey. What is the most important thing that you've learned?
What I've learned,
Mhm.
well, I've learned since I'm at this hotel that wine makes every meal an occasion. It's every table more elegant and every day a little bit more civilized. And like I've loved to, I learned to love wine. I love to, even at home, I love playing with food, match it with the wine. So it's a love. It's ingrown. And like I said, it's part of me.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Marcus, if people are listening to this and they want to book their wedding, or they want to come and visit you guys, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, at the moment, we are still in lockdown, but obviously we are available on our websites there, or on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We are doing social media launches on a regular basis. So but as soon as we open up again, you can visit us. I'm here at the hotel Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 days. We've got banqueting coordinators, we've got booking agents. So you come to visit and we will help you. So and come and experience them, really. Come and experience our terrace. Come and experience the food we are offering. You know, like when you go on our website, we can only sell so much. When you come here and you see who we really are, this handmade hospitality we try to sell to our guests and our clients. It's tangible. When you come here, it is tangible. You can feel it in the I think over the years, you know, like we can show the success, we can show what truly handmade hospitality is all about.
That's awesome. I mean, Marcus, it's been a pleasure. Thank you we'll put the links to all of this obviously in the description, but thank you for taking the time and chatting to us. And I think everybody listening to this can't wait to get to the Devon Valley. I can tell you myself that view from your terrace is one of my favorite views in the world. So, you know, definitely looking forward to seeing you guys. And yeah, thank you for spending the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers, Will. Appreciate it.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Johannes Richter, a journalist at Wineland magazine. Welcome to About the Winelands, Johannes.
Hi, Walt. Yes, thank you.
How are you? Things going with you guys and the lockdown situation? Are you busy?
We're doing well. It's a bit of an adjustment as it is for everyone, but we've got our hands full communicating to the industry, and we've got an important job, and I think we're doing it well.
Well, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit. Our listeners would like to hear a little bit about your history. Have you always been a journalist, and how did you become involved in wine journalism?
I haven't always been a journalist. I actually started in publishing. I studied at the University of Pretoria, where I majored in English and information science. I was one of the first students to do a postgraduate degree in publishing, and that was 20 years ago.
Oh, amazing.
So I started outside journalism. I was involved in the publishing industry for about 17 years, and mostly in academic publishing. But I've always wanted to write, and I kept looking for opportunities, and one presented itself about 3 years ago when I got an interview with Wineland, and here I am. So
Awesome.
That's a new career that I started.
So, I'm interested, if you say you always wanted to write, is that you're doing journalism now? Is this your ultimate, or are you going, are you planning your own books and stuff like that eventually?
I don't know. I mean, never say never, but I like shorter format stories and getting to know people and so on. With only 3 years experience, I think it'll be a while before I know enough to be able to fill a book, but it's getting there.
Well, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and it's the winelands are so full of history and stories, and so I don't think you'll ever have a problem to find short things to write
absolutely.
about, and also things happening. So Wineland magazine and your business, Wineland Media, can you tell us a bit of the history and what you guys are about?
Sure. Wineland actually began 89 years ago. We're turning 90 next year.
Wow.
It's got an interesting history. I'll just go through a few key dates. In 1931, KWV created Wynboer, which is what it was named back then, to inform and educate its members. And then 6 years later, in 1937, it began offering subscriptions to the magazine. And in 1973, it became a KWV's official channel to communicate to its members. There was a big change in the 80s when the focus shifted from being a consumer educational focus to industry orientated. So by farmers, for farmers. And by then it was already being subsidized by advertising. So we were moving to an independent platform. Then in 2000, Wynboer was renamed Wineland, and that reflected our focus on the broader industry, Afrikaans and English format articles, more online, getting into some different activities that I'll tell about later. 10 years later, in 2020, we became fully self-sustained, fully advertising driven. And we don't know, 2020 might bring something completely different.
That's interesting. So your readership, has that changed over the years from just your members in terms of the industry members to also maybe the public in terms of the stuff you're covering and
It hasn't, the core readership hasn't changed that much because the industry is pretty fixed, although it's grown and shrunk over the years, obviously. but after the subscription model, after subscriptions became possible, obviously interested people from the public, especially media, PR agencies, everyone with an interest in the industry are able to access the magazine, and that's also been growing.
Has the industry itself grown on your side from, say, just producing and the supply chain to things like tourism and that as well?
Yes, tourism has become a much bigger focus for the industry as a whole. I don't have many figures at hand, but it's almost 50%, if not more, of our product is exported. So it's a very key area of interest for our readers. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So you yourself, what do you what do you usually write about? What is the subjects that you cover?
I do a lot of personal interest stories because I don't have a technical wine background. I don't cover very scientific parts of the industry. We leave that to the professionals, but I do the common interest stories, a lot of marketing, media, wherever the story goes, actually.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're getting to do the nice stuff, right?
I hope so.
So I see always the company also publishes industry directory and this Wynberg technical yearbook and things like that. What are these?
Yes, we've got another publication. The Wine Industry Directory is an annual publication that sort of provides a comprehensive overview of the industry. That includes information on organizations active in the industry, wine regions, wine routes, and also the contact information of most sellers and producers. An opportunity for suppliers to the industry to get some exposure, to talk, to advertise and get important platform for.
It seems you're also doing some annual seminars and information.
We used to do an annual event. The official one was the Wineland seminar, but I think that's run its course now. It was we had a few sponsors. I don't know if that's going to change or if we're making plans, but it's run its course. We've done some informal sessions. The rootstock sessions also ran for a while. But yeah, at the moment we're shifting towards video production. In fact, we've got a video producer and providing some services in that regard.
I was thinking about that. I'm thinking, the Winelands itself leans itself so much more to graphics and video and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think the stories to be told and also from a marketing point of view,
storytelling is the thing. Yeah, that's what we're good at and what we'd like to focus on.
Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, so that is that something that you're going to develop more in future then as well? Of course.
It'll probably expand. The future is a little bit uncertain at the moment, but we'd like to focus on that.
I see on your website that you promote events for WinPro. Are you guys, how are you affiliated with WinPro, and are these events, do you promote other events as well, or only basically?
Not really, no. We don't rely a lot on event promotion and so on. That's not really our game. I think our affiliation with WinPro is sort of a formal affiliation. Partly because of our history with KWB, out of which WinPro grew. Mm-hmm. They've taken us under their wing, but we're not really WinPro's mouthpiece. We're more the mouthpiece of the industry, although WinPro is obviously a big part of that.
I see, okay.
Yeah, we work very closely together. We also share the same office space.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, are you, in terms of subscription, are there still subscription options available then for your magazine? Although you said you're moving away to more to advertising based, are there still subscription options, and what are they?
No, that's subscription is probably the core.
Okay.
our magazine is part of VinPro membership. So all the wine stylists, producers, and stakeholders who are VinPro members or automatically are subscribed already.
Okay.
And then subscriptions are open to anybody who is interested, really. I can tell you about that if you're interested.
Well, tell us, yeah, why not?
Yeah, the subscriptions are either both digital or printed. Everything's available on wineland.co.za. The magazine is 50 Rand an issue or 475 for 12 months. Rand an issue or 250 Rand for 12 months, which is very good value. And it's really industry specific articles, very tailored to people who are interested in more than just the wine.
Do you find that people are moving to digital reading of your actual magazine? Is that shift happening?
Less so. It's growing, but less so. I think because of the core subscription model. The people who get it, they prefer the physical magazine. It's a beautiful magazine.
They display it as well. Right?
Yeah, it looks good in your display. People drive around with it. They use it as reference in the vineyards, even. So the physical product is still very important to us, and I think it will remain that way.
Yeah, I can see that. So in terms of advertising, I mean, if an advertiser is listening to this, who would be who's your advertising market? Who would be a advertiser? What would that advertiser look like? And I mean, your demographics, like you explained, are mainly the industry.
Absolutely. Advertisers are mostly service providers and people all along the value chain of the wine industry. Obviously, it's really not limited to wine. Everything that goes into vineyard, cellars, logistics, so many aspects to the production of wine. And so the magazine is really a platform for suppliers to expose their products to the industry.
I would assume also the financial services industry, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We've got financial, legal services. It's a big industry in South Africa, and everybody has a stake in it, especially in the Western Cape.
What about international advertisers? Is that something that you can still grow, or is that something that's happening already?
It does to an extent. It depends on whether they sell their products in South Africa, usually through agents, but absolutely all the big ones. I don't know, I don't want to mention the names. I might exclude some important ones, but all the big international players are all have.
So okay, so that permanent base of advertisers as well, because of your subscription model is really into the system. Do you have any competition?
It does. Yeah.
Like, are there anybody that's really competing with you?
Not at the same level. I think we've got a very communication media base, yes, driven, and we fulfill the role of industry, almost business to business, and I don't think there's anybody else playing that field.
Awesome. I see that on your webpage you have created a COVID-19 portal. Can you tell us a bit more about what you created there?
Yeah, it's become a very important channel. I think if COVID has proven one thing, it's the importance of clear and trustworthy communication. And also, we're very close to the coalface. With our relationship with VinPro and all the stakeholders who are directly engaging with government, we're the first people to get the news, and we want to be the first to share it. We consider ourselves to be the mouthpiece of the wine industry, and as the only channel with equal access to all branches of the industry, we have a mandate to keep everyone up to date. The COVID portal is a direct result of that. So it quickly became a primary source of information for the wine industry. Mm-hmm. We already registered 46,000 visits in April, so it's really become a big source of information.
So is this interactive? In other words, what I'm getting to is it's not just from your side that you're providing information. Can people that read it also contact you and ask you to to do things on it, or is it a one-way information system?
Well, no, obviously they can contact us either through advertising. I think it's a very good advertising space at the moment. People are visiting it from all over. They can contact advertising at wineland.co.za,
Okay.
or our general inbox is in@wineland.co.za. So if they have any suggestions, requests, or needs for certain types of information, they should get in
I think, advertising is a business model, and
touch.
I mean, we've seen. I mean, I know your magazine is a bit different, but I've seen that most. I mean, in South Africa, we just seen that the Caxton Group had a problem there, and also
Yeah.
the guys that
Yeah.
published the Cosmopolitan went under. And I think internationally, everybody, all the big publishing firms are reporting losses in advertising revenue. So with the coronavirus, everybody has to rethink their business models, right? So
Yeah.
what do you guys, do you guys have any changes or new ideas in mind?
We're running through all the ideas at the moment. Obviously, it is a real threat. Advertising has been, especially print advertising, has been on a downward slope for a while already, and I think the current situation has just made it much worse. A lot of advertisers and service providers are struggling, and we're looking for different ways to add value to still be able to share and spread the information that we feel is important. But as you said, we're a bit different. We're not consumer driven, so we're not dependent on individual sales, subscriptions. As long as the producers and stakeholders survive and have something, have needs and something to say, we'll be there. We're not threatened on that sense in the same way that consumer magazines are.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. So interesting times we're living in. So Johannes, yourself, I mean, your wine industry journey, like I said, it's been 3 years, but what is the most important thing that you've learned?
Oh, well, it's been a steep learning curve, but it's such an adventure. I think the most important thing for me as a Pretoriaaner who didn't really grow up in the wine culture of the Western Cape was getting to know the people and places. The wine industry is all about interesting individuals and local, vineyards, terroir, interesting places, and visiting them, being able to see and speak to these people has really aided and enhanced my enjoyment of wine as a product. So it's been a very interesting journey so far, and I hope it keeps going.
Well, it amazed me in the last few years how the wine industry grew, right? I mean, we now even have